Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 18th of November. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how are we doing?
Fine, Derek. Like everyone else, just Groundhog Day, waiting for Rangers to announce a new manager and looking ahead to Sunday. So all good on my end.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we continue, I know loads of you are now watching us on YouTube. Thank you very much for your company. If you haven't subscribed already, then just hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. And also to take advantage of our Rangers Review website, I fully urge you to go on there and check out the articles that are being put on. It's just £2.99 a month to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Just go to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Good morning to Alan, who gets in touch this morning. There's only one show in town, Joshua, the Giovanni van Bronckhorst latest. Now, we were led to believe he's on the brink of closing in on a return to Ibrox. Senior Rangers writer Chris Jack posted an article last night. The Dutchman is expected to be confirmed as Steven Gerrard's successor sooner rather than later. So it'll be Rangers, of course, identified the 46-year-old former Feyenoord boss as their prime target after Steven Gerrard left for Aston Villa last week. It certainly looks like Gio is going to be the man. Joshua, we've talked at length about the possibility of him taking over in the last few days. Today could be very much the day when he is announced. Very much the fans' choice, isn't he? I think he very much ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, and I think if it's not today, it'll probably be Monday or next week. You've got to imagine, obviously, with everything that's going on tomorrow, and then find it hard to see them doing it the day before a semi-final. As we discussed, yesterday and the day before, I think most supporters would be quite content, especially with the club's record against Hibs in recent years, that if they're at the best and if they're focused, and listen, it's a semi-final, they've not won enough silverware. I fully expect that the leadership group and the staff in place will be well versed in terms of what Hibs are going to try and do, as they have been over the last few years. So in a way, maybe it makes sense to not unsettle that. Often you see new managers will take in their first game in the stand. In particular, I know Van Bronckhorst, or I imagine that he will have now up to this point watched a lot of Rangers. If he hadn't done already, and I'm sure he'll have a little bit of back knowledge anyway of the current playing staff. But even if, as I touched on yesterday, even if he was to come in for the game on Sunday, I don't see him making a raft of changes. I don't see him trying to implement much, if anything, because I think he'd look at the team's record against Hibs, maybe make tweaks here or there where he wants certain players to station themselves when Rangers have got the ball, how he wants certain players to utilise certain assets. But in terms of the base shape and the like, I think he'll look at the last few years and think, do you know what? They have a good record against Hibs. I think the last defeat against Hibs, it was certainly before Gerrard's time. I think it was that home game against Caixinha when Morelos scored his first Rangers goal. Could be wrong, but it was certainly a while ago. So, as is the case with everyone, waiting patiently for it. And I think when it does happen, it will give the supporters a lot of excitement. And if it was to happen before Sunday, I think that would make Sunday even more of a kind of day of celebration, if you will, because everyone will be very excited about Van Bronckhorst coming back to Ibrox.
Yeah, it might very much be another orange day we've seen in the Scottish Cup final in the year 2000. Rob Cole makes it a valid point. I think we touched on this briefly yesterday. Who'd be considered in charge if Gio's not in for Sunday? And doing the interviews, of course, the pre-match press conference, David McCallum, Brian Gilmore or Jermaine Defoe. I think it'll pretty much be a team effort. I think Joshua amongst all the coaches there, Colin Stewart, of course, the goalkeeping coach as well. I think that those individuals will be liaising and deciding what the best team will be to take on Hibs on Sunday. And I'm not too sure who's going to be put up for the pre-match press conference. Yeah. You can't imagine a new manager will be put up at this stage. No. If he is announced today, who do you think will be put up in front of the press?
I don't know. And these are as well as their small details, obviously these are considerations, and when you're looking at the timing of things, and in terms of, all supporters will know how, although going back to Graham Murty, it worked well in the first instance. At the end, it was just a terrible PR move and in general move by the club, and it didn't work. It's important who you put as the face of the club. And I'm sure that there'll be discussions internally about that. There's another question I've seen which I was gonna flag up, but it's now gone beyond me, about any news. Here we go, John Daly. Any news about the backroom staff? And I think that's a really interesting topic, Derek, because obviously Van Bronckhorst's assistant is in charge in China at the moment. Put a piece out yesterday about the importance of expertise in backroom staff, looking at some of the top coaches in the world, and the emphasis and the credit that they give to the experts around them. Obviously, it's well documented how Beale and the others that went to Villa with Gerrard are very much part of a management team. Gerrard is a manager, but he's not a manager in his own right. He's a manager with 5 as analyst, as head of performance, his technical coach, his first team coach, and his assistant coach, all playing a really fundamental role in the shape and direction that the team takes. So that will be a big part of negotiations, of no doubt, in terms of Van Bronckhorst will not, or I would be unbelievably surprised if he does not have certain demands of who he wants to come in. It might be a case that the guy that's in China, he has to wait before he comes in. It might be a case that it's a bit given, a bit a take, but that is of supreme importance, and I think that, as I put on the site yesterday, that really supersedes the need for a coach who knows the league, because Van Bronckhorst has won everything there is to win in the league, and it's different. But you look at the core of that squad, the leaders in it, Davis, McGregor, Tavernier, Boldson, and the like, they know what it's like to now go to Livingston away next Sunday. You're not going to tell me that they're not going to sit down with their new manager and say, we need to play a particular way here, we need to approach this game diligently, because it's niche going away to somewhere like the Tony Macaroni Stadium, as we've seen with Celtic this season when they were defeated 1-0. So I think you'll want technicians with them. Again, you look back to what Beale was to Gerrard, the example I gave in the article. You'll remember the St Mirren game where Rangers were really struggling in the opening 20 minutes. St Mirren went man for man, pressed Davies and the two centre backs. Beale, as he so often did with Gerrard, kind of rose from the bench, had a little word. John Lundstram was told to sit deeper. That meant Rangers had 2 players on Jamie McGrath and could play through, and that completely changed the game. And it wasn't a case of they needed a Scottish assistant to come in and tell them to be more aggressive at this ground, or to approach that this is going to have to be more of a battle than a home game, which is true. And obviously there is, again, niche elements to going away to all these grounds. But you need someone that's a tactician. You need someone that is going to be able to implement and change things in game. And you need to retain the level of coaching. These players have developed under a top coach in Michael Beale, and they'll be expectant, and they'll know themselves how important that is for their own career. So backroom staff, really, really important. And I'll be really interested to see who that is.
Yeah, interesting you should mention that. I spoke to a guy on a Feyenoord podcast yesterday. There'll be a piece coming out on the website later today, folks. He touched on backroom staff now. Jean-Paul Van Gaskel is in China at the moment. He and Van Bronckhorst are very good friends. You can see him possibly coming over, but he's not too sure if Van Gaskel would prefer to stay in China. He reckons that Jan Wouters is a definite to come back over and return to Ibrox, given that he's not doing anything, and he worked with Van Bronckhorst before. And you threw another name into the ring as well, that they worked together at Feyenoord, which really intrigued me, and that was Roy Mackay, who the former Bayern Munich striker, former Dutch striker as well. Great reputation, fantastic player in his day, and he'd be a really interesting one if Rangers can manage to bring him in as part of the coaching setup. So watch this space.
Well, you'd say as well, Derek, though, and I think this is an important point. If you'd looked at Michael Beale's CV before he came to Rangers, you'd have thought, he's only coached professionally a couple of times. He's mainly worked in development sectors, but I think increasingly that's what you need in first team football. You need a first team coach who's going to come in, be an intelligent guy, relate to the players, but also have a mindset of development alongside the mindset of the managers, which will be performance and results. I think if you look at the individual improvements, and obviously it's easy to be revisionist now that Gerrard and co have gone, but last season they merited more than one trophy. They lost 3 games out of, I think, 56. the level of performance and consistency was remarkable. The home record over the last 50 games was remarkable. And that was a lot of that. We know that Beale was given a lot of responsibility in the training ground. So again, Van Bronckhorst could come in and bring a couple of names that aren't necessarily well known, but I would always preference who is going to be the better technician, who is going to be actually better on the grass and develop players. Because if it was just names, and again, I don't think at all it's going to be, but that would be far more harmful than worrying about the reputation of who you bring in. So I think that's an important one to bear in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. If they get Jan Wouters, then you hear former players that work with him, he knows his onions, as they say. So I think that would be an excellent appointment if that was to happen. There's just to go slightly off topic here. Las Vegas newbie 23 asks any news on Ruf's injury. Now, he was taken off and during Jamaica's 1-1 draw with El Salvador recently with a suspected injury. We're not too sure the extent of that. There were rumours that he may miss Sunday, but we won't know the full details until that pre-match press conference takes place, Joshua. But if he were to miss the game, it'd be a big loss, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think, touching on Ruf, the system that I think Van Bronckhorst is going to probably implement, if it is him that comes in, which we might touch on, I think that's something that could really suit Ruf. Playing somewhat of a free role, arriving late in the box, link and play. I think Ruf at times, because he's such a really top player, given the level that he's playing at, he could play as one of the 210s, come off the flank and play in a variety of roles. It'll be interesting to see. I think scarcely you've had that kind of front area built around what is good for Ruf, what's going to get the best out of him. Often he's been complimenting Morelos, or he's been shoehorned into kind of the right number 10 role without the ball. And I think technically, and as a goal scorer, as we've spoken about plenty of times before, he's really top at this level. So hopefully it's nothing bad. I know it's been a while since he's had an injury, which is a good sign. But again, obviously, given his injury record, the more games he plays, the higher risk of injury. So if there's any doubt, I don't expect that the coaching staff will risk him for Sunday. And if that is the case, that'll be a blow, because I think in these types of games he can be really, really important.
Yeah, but let's go back to Van Bronckhorst, Joshua, because you've been having a little look at how his Feyenoord team played and what Rangers fans can expect to see from a Van Bronckhorst side. What's your main takeaways? What can people look forward to, do you reckon?
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm sure, and I know when you were speaking to certain people at the club, probably there was accusations of stuff being a little bit too samey or not enough change.
Predictable was the word mentioned, yeah.
Predictable, yeah. And since then, he's taken a couple of years out, but the achievement to win what he did in the first place, to beat an Ajax side that was the Ajax side that got to the Europa League final, and in 2 subsequent years would get to the Champions League semi-finals, that top side with a much bigger wage budget, and PSV have a bigger wage budget than Feyenoord did as well. So I think it's an achievement sense, it was a very, very big league win. He also won 2 cups. In terms of style of play, I think what you'll see is a few things. If you look at his fullbacks in that title-winning season, he had 6 assists between them. And obviously, he'll come in. He won't want to negate the main positives of this Rangers side, but I think what you'll see is his ability to probably build on and maintain some of the principles and foundations of play that are in place at the moment, but then also introduce new ones, and that gives variation. And we've talked about that a lot this season, how at times it's been too predictable, and the positioning of players, and how Rangers attack, a lack of pace in the wide areas, the move to 210s under Gerrard and Beale obviously was credited with a real change in success, but also at times that meant that players like Kent, who at their best one-on-one, were playing in very congested areas, and there was no variation in terms of the rotations and in either wide triangles. It was always Barisic or Tavernier going beyond, always Hagi or Rebo or Kent coming short, and I think that was predictable to defend against. Malmo at home, for me, was the best example of that this season. So I think, again, if you look at the areas that his 2 wingers, Berghuis and Ilya picked up in that title-winning season, often they would be attacking from in to out instead of out to in. And I think often it's simple things like that, and you've seen it with Sakala against Motherwell. you allow for the injection of pace, a greater injection of pace into the attack at times when you're attacking the space from those areas. Aberdeen at home as well. Think of the room that was afforded to Calvin Bassey. But imagine if you'd had a Scott Wright or a Ryan Kent out there, that would completely have altered Aberdeen's ability to really overload and protect central spaces and stop Rangers playing there, because they know that they're not going to go in behind them, so to speak, or go around them with pace in the areas that we're leaving. So I think you'll see that. I think for Alfredo Morelos, it could be good news, because again, if you look at his use of forwards as a focal point, Jorgensen in that title-winning season, I'd look at his passing numbers today, and he received on average 14 passes per game. And Morelos at times this season, I think at Ross County, he received 46 passes or maybe 42, and his average is just under 30 this season. So in terms of his involvement in the build-up play, in terms of what his role is in the team, I think it will be a lot more penalty box focused, which I think will suit him, and it will allow him to still come against deep defences, to switch play and to create room to run into. But I think it will also allow him to perhaps use his best attributes that gained him such reputation in Europe in particular. And so I think there'll be a few different things, a few alterations to the way that the team have played, and I think that can only be good. I think if you look at that playing squad, it's undoubtedly the best in the division. I don't think anyone really question that, even with other tinted glasses on. So I think it'll be good, interesting to see how he builds on the foundations that are already there and utilises that, the strengths of Tavernier and Barisic going high and wide, but also then varies that approach and brings in his principles and his styles. And could be very good for the success of the team. A lot of teams now have a lifespan of 3 to 4 years, and it's either the manager or the playing staff that needs refreshed. You look at Pochettino at Tottenham, for example, a person that was so popular that they tried to bring him back this summer, but he still was sacked in 2019 because he believed that the playing squad needed refreshed, and the results showed that. So maybe in hindsight, this will be looked back at as a positive and the best thing for both parties.
Yeah, that's pretty much bang on what the boy I spoke to from the Feyenoord podcast. He said that he went out the front door, and he's because of that, he's regarded as a legend. But he felt that the time was right to part company at that point. But stay tuned to the Rangers Review website, folks, and all our social media channels for any update on the manager hunt. Finally, Joshua, before you go, a story that broke just after our morning briefing yesterday, that Atletico Madrid apparently keeping tabs on Nathan Patterson. Did you see him running about in La Liga?
I don't want to. I want to see him running about more in the Scottish Premiership, and hopefully whoever is the new manager will either find out a way to play both him and Tavernier or make a difficult decision at one point, because I think probably one of the criticisms you could level at the previous regime was that Patterson didn't play enough this season so far up to this point. He's too good, and certainly I don't think 15 games is enough for him this season, and Derek certainly will not be, next season. So I think this interest will continue to ramp on, and especially when clubs know that Patterson isn't getting games. I'm sure he'll want to stay at Rangers, but he'll also want to play games. So again, that's another dilemma. I know you wrote about that this morning in a piece that's out this morning. In terms of what the new manager has to do about that, or what he can do about it. We've seen in Gerrard's last game, Nathan Patterson come on at left back, something that I've written about in the site before, the potential of using an inverted left back in the same way that Cancelo does at City. It can happen. It wouldn't be abnormal. Maybe maybe that's something that could happen as well. So certainly something that needs to be addressed, because he's too good to sit on the bench for the majority of the season, and I'm sure the new manager will be briefed on that upon taking the job.
Yeah, okay. Well, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for getting in touch as ever. Remember to subscribe to the Rangers Review now to support top quality journalism covering the club. You will have to just go to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. And if you're watching us on YouTube, Aldo McNaught sums it up perfectly by saying smash the like button, people, and subscribe. Okay, that'll do us for today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your